What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So over the last 5 days, Lucid is up 9.73%. As well, the market's been absolutely on fire. Most likely, a lot of that positive momentum will roll over into this upcoming week. In addition to that, though, this whole week can kind of be characterized as Fed week. There is an enormous amount of Fed speakers pretty much kicking it off Monday morning. And so you have even the bears, the most bearish Feds, and the most bullish Fed speakers. So it's going to be wide range of topics being kind of discussed, again, starting on Monday throughout the whole week. Even Big Bad Powell on Tuesday. As far as true data points, we do have GDP on Thursday and then PCE on Friday. So a lot of that could really move the broader market. But in my opinion, like I said, I think there is just a lot of optimism. And unless Powell somehow in a span of a week kind of goes back on his word of how potentially there might be 50 basis points worth of cuts, if he comes out and says, hey, you know what, I never said that, blah, 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 all that crazy stuff, then the market might kind of consolidate. But in reality, I think the market is kind of in FOMO mode. And as I brought up in my video on Friday, there's been a start of a very nice rotation from money markets into both crypto and equity. So just this last week alone, $19.49 billion left money markets. So potentially some big rotation might start to occur, similar to what happened between 2020 and 2021. So things might get very real, very fast. That won't, of course, just happen this week. That'll be over a span of most likely a year. But nonetheless, that should really propel a lot of stocks to kind of higher highs. Aside from that, and more specific to Lucid, this is what is on their website showing as upcoming events. So they're still going to be in Chicago, pop-up tour. Same with Troy, Michigan International Auto Show. That is going to be between September the 26th and October the 5th. These are the hours that are laid out there. And then the other one is going to be for October. So it looks like it's just going to be these three that's scheduled for pretty much this week. And even on social media, there hasn't really been that much in catalysts. So luckily enough, Lucid's been able to get a lot of good buying and piggyback off of just the broader market's momentum, really pushing it higher. There hasn't really been that much in analyst ratings. Potentially, if Lucid puts out some news, you might see some ratings. So last ratings did come out roughly around 2 weeks ago, $20 and then $21 price targets. So as a consensus over the last 3 months, $30.30, representing a 43.6% upside. So I think in general, comparing all EVs, both Chinese and American, Lucid by far is at a substantial discount. So again, something to keep in mind as the market heats up. Big money is also going to be looking for value plays and kind of discounted stocks. So I think Lucid could really fall under that category. Aside from that, looking at shorts going into this week, 31.24% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 39.16 million shares overall are being shorted. So I did a top 5 most heavily shorted EV stocks video on my financial journey channel, and yours truly was number 1 as per usual. So I don't know if that's a positive thing or maybe as a negative. I'll leave it up to you to make that determination. But in my opinion, with DTC being at 3.01 days, it does signal that shorts are very overextended. They haven't really done too much. So ever since reverse stock split, they returned a lot for whatever reason. Since then, I think ever since Lucid started to gain a little bit of momentum, you can kind of see shorts starting to get back in, which is rather odd. Cost to borrow average is 50.63%. Short score is 84.27. As far as the options goes, you see from the bulls standpoint, a consensus for it to be roughly around that 21 to 21.50. Somehow you have this level of optimism for it to be above 24.50. And once I go over the technicals, it'll make a little bit more sense why some people are assuming that is on the table. And then bears are anticipating for it to be kind of sub 1950. So given where it did close, there's a lot more upside than down. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So you did start to see some buying. And most likely over the next week and a half, you will be seeing more of these types of transactions because institutions will be having to rebalance for Q3. So again, we're about 2 weeks away from the conclusion of Q3. So I'm sure some of this is already starting to be associated to rebalancing. This big one right here, 29.9 million, even first thing, 2.6, 1.2. So big money is paying a little bit more attention to Lucid. These are some of the transactions occurring on the dark pool from Friday. So once again, some abnormal activity on Friday. But when it comes down to sometimes the abnormal activity after hours on a Friday, some of that is actually linked to the open interest, so market makers covering, and you didn't really see that much. So you do have roughly about 8,000 at that 20, 2,000 at that 21, 1,000 at the 2050, and then 2,000 at the 19. So some of that could be associated to just covering some of these. So again, something just to keep in mind. Some key levels to watch for with it at 2110. It is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 1948 will be a strong support. I don't personally see that being touched unless, like I said, one of the Fed speakers really just tears a new one in the broader market, which again, I don't really see that being on the table. Flip side, 2145 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. And based on this right here, so if it is able to successfully get above that 2145, which from this market position, you see some walls of selling, and it pretty much concludes roughly around that 2153. So again, if Lucid is able to really hit hard early on and break above that key resistance level, then in theory, you could see a very nice push higher to potentially that 50-day moving average, which is at 2261. And if able to get above that, then you could see a very nice push to most likely that $24 range. That seems to be the next kind of small wall for the most part of selling. So once again, from a bull standpoint, that's why you had that abnormal activity for this upcoming week for it to be roughly around that 2450. So once again, Lucid has a mind of its own. Most of the time it tends to just go down because the sentiment is very negative, but with the broader market in massive FOMO mode, I think in general, this upcoming week is going to be very, very positive for Lucid. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. One thing as well to take note of though is based on the flow, you've seen a lot of algorithmic trading. So that's been really helping Lucid kind of push higher as well. There hasn't really been that much in actual articles either talking about Lucid. So I think just it piggybacking off the broader market's been absolutely a-okay. So let me know your general thoughts on Lucid. Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? Do you think we're going to be seeing that potentially 2450? Do you think it's going to be more of a negative week and more consolidation? What is your general thoughts on all of that? In my opinion, I do feel for this week, we'll continue to have kind of a lot of volatility as what we've seen, but generally we will be closing between this R1 and the pivot. Once again, it's nothing too crazy to jump up and down yet over because kind of pre-reverse stock split, that's nothing, right? That's only $2.30 for the most part. So regardless, I think still making some pretty good progress from the recent lows of 1550 or whatever it was. So this upcoming week, I do feel that we will be between this R1 and the pivot. So if you're wanting to dollar cost average, swing trade, or whatever else, just kind of watch for this, take a mental note of some of the strong support and resistance points. But let me know your thoughts on Lucid and what you've been doing or what you plan on doing. And I have actually had a couple comments asking where I will be buying next. And as I've mentioned, what I'm going to be doing and kind of focusing on is selling puts, ideally around that $19 and $20 strike prices. So potentially getting in like about 50-cent premiums every single time. If it gets obviously executed, then so be it. If not, I get to keep the premiums. So I think in my opinion, that's what I'm going to be doing. So even if it does run up to, let's say 23, 24, I'm not really going to kind of ride the wave up. I'll just kind of sit back and wait, only because of, as of what I've mentioned in the past, what I feel is coming. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. I actually just did a post yesterday about Lucid, going over what I feel is coming next, price targets, and everything. So if you're interested, pop over there, link in the description below and also comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.